Immigration is an issue which divides America. You only have to tune in to the presidential debate to hear it. Most everyone would agree that the immigration system in America is broken. I believe it is. I was part of an effort with some colleagues to try to come up with a comprehensive immigration reform bill which passed the Senate 3 years ago by a vote of 68 to 22. We worked long and hard on that bill, brought it to the Senate, a bipartisan bill, and it passed with an overwhelming majority. The House refused to consider the measure. Speaker Boehner, John Boehner, never would call it to the floor. The bill we passed never, ever got a vote on the floor of the House of Representatives. And here we sit today with the same broken immigration system. Let me tell you one part of it that is very important to me and I think to many of my colleagues. 15 years ago, I introduced a bill called the DREAM Act. 15 years now. The genesis of that bill, I've said on the floor many times, and I'll repeat very quickly. We got a call in my Chicago office from a Korean-American woman who had a daughter who was a musical prodigy, an amazing pianist who'd been accepted at 2 of the best music schools in America. She was filling out her application, and she said to her mom, "What do I put down for my nationality or citizenship?" And her mom says, "I don't know. When we brought you here, Teresa, you were 2 years old. You came here on a visitor's visa. I never filed any more papers, so I don't know." The daughter said, "What are we going to do?" And the mom said, "We're going to call Durbin's office." So they called our office, and we said, "Let us check the law." And the law was very clear. This 18-year-old girl, brought here at the age of 2 under American law, had to leave the United States for 10 years and apply to come back in. Does that sound right? When she was 2 years old, she had no voice in the decision to come to America, no voice in the decision on filing papers, and yet our law basically told her leave. That's when I introduced the DREAM Act. And I said, if you're brought here under the age of 16, complete high school, no serious criminal issues in your background, we'll give you a chance. Give you a path to become legal and ultimately become a citizen. That's what the DREAM Act is. We haven't passed that bill. We passed it maybe once in the Senate, once in the House, never brought it together to be sent to the president. But this president, Barack Obama, was my fellow senator from Illinois for 2 years, and he co-sponsored the DREAM Act. So a few years ago, I joined in a letter to the president with Senator Dick Lugar, a Republican of Indiana, and said to him, help us protect these young people from being deported until we can finally pass comprehensive immigration reform or the DREAM Act. The president listened and did it. He created what's known as DACA. And what DACA says, if you are such a young person, you may step forward, register with the government, submit yourself to a criminal background check, pay a several $100 filing fee, and then we will give you temporary protection from deportation. 2 years later, 3 years later, you have to reapply and go through the same process, pay the fee, and do it again. Well, as it turned out, 700,000 young people who were in the same situation as the Korean girl that I mentioned to you in Chicago have applied for this DACA protection so that they can stay here on a temporary basis, go to school, work, and be part of the United States. There's no guarantee they'll ever become permanently legal or citizens. I hope they will, but at least they are protected on a temporary basis. The president a year later said, if you are in a family where one of the kids in the house is an American citizen or here legally in the United States, we're going to give the parents the same opportunity to register with the government, to go through a criminal background check, to pay their fee to the government, then to be given a temporary work permit to work in the United States. That's known as DAPA, DACA and DAPA. It is currently being challenged in the Supreme Court. I went over for the argument before the Supreme Court last week. The state of Texas and 23 other states, I believe it's 23, have challenged this, saying it will create benefits on these individuals under DACA and DAPA that will cost the states money. Turns out the whole story is that once these people are working in the United States and paying taxes, the state of Texas and all the other states with state income taxes are going to make quite a bit more money off these workers when they actually are required to pay taxes as they should. so that this economic argument doesn't go too far. The point I've tried to make to my colleagues in the Senate, as long as I've been here and as long as I've had this opportunity to talk about the DREAM Act, is that they ought to take a moment and stop listening to the presidential debates and just pay attention to the lives that are at stake in this conversation. I've come to the floor quite a few times to talk about young people who would be helped if the DREAM Act became the law of the land. Mr. President, this morning, I'm going to introduce those who are watching this to Cynthia Sanchez. Cynthia Sanchez is another young person who is living in the United States and is undocumented. She was brought here at the age of 7 from Mexico. She grew up in Denver, Colorado. She was an excellent student. In high school, Cynthia was a member of the National Honor Society and made the President's Honor Roll every semester with a 4.0 grade point average. I wish I could say the same about my high school experience. Cynthia was vice president, co-president of the Student Council. She volunteered as a peer mediator and volunteered at the local library. She went on to attend the University of Denver, where she received numerous awards and scholarships and was an active volunteer. For the record, undocumented young people like Cynthia receive no federal assistance to go to college. No Pell Grants, no government loans. They've got to find a way to pay for it. They can't use any government benefits to go forward with their education. She was a member of a student organization called the Pioneer Leadership Program. She developed the Denver University Senior Connect to help raise awareness about the needs of senior citizens. As a member of the Volunteers in Partnership Program, she organized workshops at high schools and middle schools with low-income and minority student populations. She helped the students fill out their college applications and write scholarship essays, and she brought the students to visit her campus at the University of Denver. She graduated in 2010 with a degree in cognitive neuroscience, which is a double major in psychology and biology, and then she minored in chemistry on top of it. Because of her immigration status, despite the fact that she had this amazing college experience, was academically successful, and had this important degree, she couldn't find a job. She wasn't even able to volunteer at a local hospital because she lacked a Social Security number, being undocumented. I'd ask unanimous consent for 2 additional minutes.
Without objection.
Thank you. Cynthia's dream to become a doctor was on hold because of her immigration status. Only 9 schools told her that she might be able to apply and be considered as an undocumented student. 2 years after graduating, Cynthia was working as a nanny and questioning whether all the hard work and time in school was wasted. She cried as President Obama made the announcement about creating DACA. She realized she was going to be given her chance. She applied for it immediately. She was approved in the summer of 2013. By September, Cynthia was working at Northwestern University in Chicago doing clinical research in the Department of Medicine's Division of Cardiology. Her research focuses on improving treatment options for patients facing heart failure. She sent me a letter, and this is what Cynthia said. DACA has meant a new realm of opportunities for me. It has opened new doors for me and allowed me once again to believe my dream can become a reality. I truly believe that if those opposed to DACA or the DREAM Act had the chance to sit down and meet undocumented students, their opinions might change. They would see capable, smart, hardworking people who are Americans in every sense of the word, love this country, and want to contribute to its prosperity. After all, this is our home. Cynthia and the other dreamers have a lot to give to America. Like many immigrants who've come to this country, they are willing to sacrifice. They're willing to go to the back of the line. All they're asking for is a chance. I urge my colleagues, particularly my Republican colleagues, join us in doing the right thing for these dreamers, doing the right thing for Cynthia and thousands of others who are just asking for a chance to make America a better nation.